Hello, welcome to the Crownsman Show. Today we have a crew out at the Utility Expo in Louisville, Kentucky. Lots of it's a crazy event. You should, if nothing else, go on and see and just look up the event and see some of the setups of companies there. And we've got a company today named STUDSON, and this is a company I actually came into my preview. I don't know, maybe 6 months ago. And they just have an awesome line of products. And then Dennis actually was able to book them for the show. So very exciting to have them. There's founder and CEO, Ryan Barnes. Ryan, welcome to the show. Truly great to have you on.
Thank you, Jerrod. It's great to be here. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, is it a busy show already for you?
Yeah, today it's been a great show. This is the first time for us at the Utility Expo.
Oh, it is.
And yeah. The traffic seems great. Today's definitely a little heavier than yesterday. But.
Yeah, it's usually how it goes. It sort of builds and then tapers off towards the end. But you must have you have one of those booths that people actually are going to stop at. Some companies, it's hard to pull people in. I'm guessing you're not having that issue.
Not so much. I mean, we're in a great location right here on a main aisle, so. But yeah, we have some intriguing product in technology that captures people's attention, and it's easy to ignite conversations.
Helmets are. I've always hated those the old helmets that have been. Where did they get designed? It was something like the early 1900s or something.
The hard hat was invented in 1919.
Wow! So it was due for an upgrade. Let's start with your background. I mean, I really want to get into some of the products and the way you've innovated. But let's start with where you got started. You're a skier, I think I saw on your website.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up ski racing and went to work for a couple ski companies. And most recently was working for a helmet company, a European helmet company called POC. And they manufacture helmets for cycling and snow sports. And I was working for them. I worked for them for 5.5 years. And back in January of 2019, I was standing on a ski slope talking to a mutual long-term friend who owns a GC general contractor in Portland. And he started talking about them, getting rid of their hard hats and moving to a safety helmet. And asked if POC made helmets, and I went home and started doing some research, and that's when I learned that the hard hat was invented in 1919, and realized that even in 2019, 100 years later, there was virtually not a whole lot that had changed. Still had a traditional webbing system inside, and primarily just type 1, which is protection from the top. And, materials have changed. They went from the original leather dipped to aluminum shells to plastics, and now there's carbon fibers and Kevlar materials. But no real technology inside to protect your brain. That's where the idea was inspired, and I did a bit of due diligence and research for several months, and decided that I would leave my career behind and try and start an industrial safety helmet company.
Wow, that's how do you go about that? I've run into different things. I go, oh, that'd be nice to get made, and that's about as far as I take it. Where do you get started, even just day one, designing it?
Yeah, so I spent several months trying to find a designer, an industrial designer. There's the industrial design to create a beautiful product, and then you have to have the engineering to make it a toolable product, and that's a long process. But I spent several months finding a designer, and came together with the deal with him. And, kind of started putting the steps in motion. I was doing this alongside, my current job. And so it was just mainly nights and weekends project. And then we incorporated in September 2019, formed a board and some potential early stage investors and some construction industry folks who gave us, some good insight into the industry to be able to talk with safety directors, interview workers, So we could really understand if we're going to develop a product, how do we get worker adoption? And in those early stages, people looked at us with a blank stare like, chin straps? I'm not going to get my guys to wear chin straps. And then in early 2020 is when the design started to come to life, and we kind of picked a direction we wanted to go. And then from there was another year and a half of final engineering, tooling, prototyping, first shot samples, making some tweaks in the mold, and we finally got our first product in market in August of 2021.
Wow. So that was, sorry, how long of a process was that then?
A year and a half to, just shy of 2 years. Typically a designer or engineer will tell you, to create a brand new product from scratch, the whole process is going to be 18 to 24 months.
Let's talk about our heavy industry tour brought to you by Savannah Equipment, supplying mining equipment worldwide. We are heading to events across North America, Africa, and Australia, and filming episodes on location. Email us at info@crownsman.com to be part of our Crownsman's Heavy Industry World Tour. With Fender Dunlop, you know you are getting the best conveyor belting in the market. That's because they ensure the integrity of their conveyor belting by monitoring each step of the manufacturing process in their North American facilities. Focused attention is given to each belting order to guarantee that they produce a belt that will assist the customer in reducing operation costs, maximizing uptime, and improving revenue. Visit FenderDunlopAmericas.com to learn more. Based in Southern California, Enhanced Scanning has performed thousands of projects on construction sites across the U.S. in an effort to help its customers find the unfindable. Enhanced Scanning combines ground-penetrating radar, laser scanning, and drone inspection services to provide comprehensive deliverables for their customers' fast-paced timelines, all without sacrificing quality or communication. To learn more, you can visit them at enhancedscanning.com or find them on LinkedIn at Enhanced Scanning.
So just going back, let's stick out with the design of the helmet. When you were building the prototype before it got to market, what was in your head that it would be, and sort of what did you learn along the way during that time period that got the product to where? And I know you now have a couple different lines, and we'll cover that, but just sort of that core of the product. What was the main learning during that period, that development period?
I learned so much about product design along the way, the engineering and tooling of how a product actually gets created. I think, our number one goal was to create something that was a little bit different from the traditional climbing style helmets that were in the market. Create something with a little bit of a brim, because most of these climbing style helmets didn't have any, and that rain deflection is probably the most important piece of that, but also some sun protection for these guys that are working outdoors, in the elements. And then that was the design kind of goal. And then from there, it had to have, the best technology. And, I had some good insight from the cycling and snow sports world that there's a material out there called Koroyd that absorbs energy about 48% more efficiently than your standard EPS foam. And so it was kind of a no-brainer. We first had to, make a deal and find out if Koroyd would want to work with a new little startup. But we did, and I think we have a great partnership. And that's the main, that's the first thing in the helmet. And then I wanted to put an NFC chip in the helmet, and that NFC chip stores your emergency medical profile. It's called Twice Me. You can have, pretty much anything the user wants to put in there, from blood type and diabetic, allergies, whether you're a donor, emergency contacts. Critical information that would matter to first responders, when seconds or minutes, can make the difference in saving someone's life.
L&H Industrial can custom engineer and build from the ground up any heavy equipment assembly or machine that you need for your operation. Their worldwide 24/7 field services network is on the job whenever you need heavy equipment troubleshooting, repairs, rebuilds, relocations, or replacements. And thanks to their specialized design and engineering and state-of-the-art manufacturing and repair services, they are a go-to international supplier for improved components and custom assemblies for heavy industrial machinery. Visit lnh.net to learn more. ZeroNox is leading the electrification of off-highway commercial and industrial vehicles. They provide a platform for clean energy technology to get to market through powertrain solutions, development partnerships, and electrification kit solutions for conversions. Reduce carbon emissions without diminishing vehicle performance or being restricted by high costs. Partner with ZeroNox, like many of the world's leading OEMs, as they solve challenges across multiple continents with their cleaner and higher performing technology. ZeroNox solutions are designed and engineered in America with offices in Porterville, California. Learn more at zeronox.com. Introducing the SolarSet Fold. The new foldable frame solar system brings power to your residential and commercial property and can be shipped worldwide. Like all SolarSet products, the SolarSet Fold comes turnkey, pre-assembled, and is easily transported and installed. Learn more about SolarSet Fold and their full line of amazing solar systems at solarset.com.
Okay, I wanted to actually just do a little bit of a pivot back to. I'm pretty sure that I saw you in a picture skiing without a helmet at all. So I want to go a little bit. Is there a personal element to this with you? I mean, that's specifically. I remember a girl that I knew that I met her, briefly, and then a few years later, we ended up at the same school, and I saw her, and she had been in just a terrible accident. Didn't know who anybody was. It was just an awful, awful accident, and completely changed her. And I think years to recover, and I think she actually did, and end up riding horses again. And but it does happen. And did that play a role? The dangerous skiing. Did you ever have any issues yourself skiing?
Yes, I did. So the picture you saw of me skiing without a helmet, that was back in the early 90s or maybe late 80s, before ski racers wore helmets, except for when they were doing speed events, and recreational skiers didn't wear helmets back then. And I hit a tree when I was 16, just training, no helmet on, and smashed the side of my face, and now I have titanium plates in my face. And from that day on, once I recovered and got back on skis, I wore a helmet all the time for 2 years. And then, of course, went to work for some ski companies, and helmets started to become a big thing. And nowadays, you don't go to a hill without seeing. I mean, every single person, for the most part, is wearing a helmet. And same thing with riding bikes. I mean, we don't ride bikes, nor do we let our kids ride bikes without helmets. It's just what we do, and I think it's crazy that it's taken that long in the construction industry to change that mentality and train of thought. But it is happening now, and it's happening very quickly, actually, being driven by some of the biggest GCs in the country who are making mandates for safety helmets with chin straps. That transition from hard hats to helmets has been happening for a couple years and is moving very quickly.
What is the distinct difference between the two?
A hard hat doesn't have a chin strap. A typical hard hat would be Type 1, and that's the standard. It just tests from top impact. And Type 2 is top impact, but front, side, and rear as well. And so Type 2 is really total protection all around. Your typical Type 2 helmet, for the most part, won't have a harness system. It'll have some type of material inside, whether that's EPS foam or the Koroyd material we use, that's going to crumple and absorb energy, taking that energy away from your brain. And the harness system really is, the harness system provides no protection laterally. It's just from a top impact. And I think traditionally that design was really just for falling objects or dropped objects on construction sites.
What with the GCs, is it the executives that, I mean, obviously they're the ones who onboarded into the, Do they go and buy for their whole crew, right? Is that sort of one of your main markets then?
Yes, because GCs, I mean, any sizable GC provides you PPE the day that you come to work, and it's the executives making those decisions. If you look at the costs of a traumatic brain injury or a death, and the medical costs and the lost wages and whatever other settlements, it could be over $1 million, and so they obviously care about their people and going through that process. If you've ever known someone that had a traumatic brain injury, it's devastating and not fun and not something that you want any of your people to go through. So I commend the executives from some of these biggest GCs across the U.S. who have put their foot down and said, we're going to make this a mandate, and we're now starting to see that mandate also get pushed down to all the subcontractors. So if you're on one of those job sites and you're a sub, electrical contractor, concrete, iron workers, you're now being required to wear a Type 2 helmet and with a chin strap and using the chin strap.
What is the biggest challenge then entering as a newer company? I'm before this interview, I was already aware of the product line, and it was amazing. And I'm going to try to angle to get you to send me some so we can put them in the background, actually. But
absolutely,
I'll do that. I'll deal with that later. But no, it really is an amazing product line that you have. And so,
thank you.
Where's the challenge getting these into the market? Are you competing? Are you competing with hard hats? Is it other helmets? Is it people just not being used to because they just look different? I mean, what is it?
Yeah, I mean, it 100%. It's the different look, the climbing style version with not a lot of brim. So traditionally, I either had a cap style hard hat, and guys like to flip them around and wear them backwards, or you have full brim. And it's just people are resistant to change, right? And then the chin strap. It's just like when we had to start wearing seatbelts. It was cumbersome for a couple days, and then you just get used to it. And so it's just the resistance to change, I think. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, I always use this example, but these guys are willing to spend a couple $100 on steel-toed work boots to protect their toe, and they think it's okay to spend $15, $20 on a hard hat. And so, I think it is just a mindset shift that's happening, and people are getting it. I mean, the conversations have gotten so much easier over the last year. Since we launched, there was definitely still a lot more resistance if you go back to 2020, 21 in conversations we were having, and then even in late 21 during our initial few months of sales. And what's happened over the last year is it's really sped up quite fast, and people get it now, and they're starting to understand that their head is their most valuable tool, or their brain is their most valuable tool, and if they crack it or hurt it, they might not be able to go home and take care of the family.
Well, it's even in sports, I'm Canada, big hockey fan, of course, and it took the biggest star, Sidney Crosby. He got a head injury, then he got another one, and this was in a hockey world where the head was. I mean, we wore helmets as kids, but it just wasn't. Concussions weren't even really. We knew about them, but you had to really get one to make anybody talk about it. And then he missed I think he was in a dark room for 3 months recovering from a head injury, and that was his second one. And then all of a sudden it started to shift. In the construction world, you don't have a big superstar that everybody knows, so it's almost easy for it to just be sort of. It's harder to spread the message. It really has to be, I guess, the top down has to look at it this way, right?
Yeah, because the workers, the workers aren't gonna see that. construction workers are bred to be tough. They don't get hurt. If they do fall down or they do get banged up, they jump right up, and they gotta show, their toughness. And so that they're likely not going to make the correct choice. Some of them are, and I think, like I said, the shift is happening. So people are starting to think, oh yeah, I probably should protect that. And it's really just the stat is that most head injuries in construction come from 6 feet or less, from what they refer to as trips, slips, and falls. And typically, 9 times out of 10, by the time they hit the ground, that hard hat is no longer on their head anyway.
Yep.
Not that it would do a whole lot to protect them if it's a traditional Type 1, but because it didn't have a chin strap, it didn't stay on and didn't stay secure, and wasn't really able to do what a helmet is meant to do.
Yeah, I mean, there's the other side of it too. Is those helmets are so much better looking than the ridiculous looking helmets that from the 1920s.
I mean, yeah, it's the profile, because with the hard hat in the traditional harness system, they created a bunch of dead air above your head and between the shell, and that dead air. Or that gap is what was protecting you from a falling object. And so then the profile of the helmet was much taller. And so now with these helmets that, with our helmet, we definitely took a lot of elements from a bike helmet and ski helmets, and how the interior is designed, but it's a profile thing. So you don't want it to, stick way up on your head and make you look goofy.
Well, and compact spaces. That's the other thing with those helmets is guys take them off on construction sites or mining sites or whatever it is. And people aren't supposed to do it, but when you're having to navigate, electrical and all this sort of stuff, you're adding so much space above your head.
Yeah, and the traditional full brim hard hat, made it difficult to get into confined spaces. So that's one positive thing we hear from people once they've shifted over to a climbing style helmet is, they can move around. The brim doesn't catch on things as much, but it's kind of a give and take between, the protection of the elements from sun and rain, and kind of depends on what your specific, job function or niche is, or what industry or vertical you're in.
What about standards though within the industry? Of course, GCs, they get on board. That's one thing, but then there's the other side of it. You have to wear. And for anybody listening who goes, oh, it's going to be another rule. Well, the rule is already to wear a helmet. You already got to wear the safety hat. So I can't. It's hard to imagine that over the next. In 20 years, the people will even be allowed on those sites with the old style hat.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that the hard hat will become extinct someday. At least the traditional Type 1 without a chin strap, and everything will be Type 2 or even greater. We're a part of ISEA, the International Safety Equipment Association, and I'm on the Z89 committee, which is the ANSI standard in the U.S., and it's getting a revision for 24. It'll have a little bit more depth or granularity to it to make it clear of what designations or distinctions there are in the market. And there will probably be, at some point in the future, greater than what you see today or what you're going to see released in the 2024 revision, because there's technologies being developed. We're learning more about head injuries. It's just standard evolution and innovation. And so I think, 10, 15, 20 years from now, what you see in industrial helmets could be quite different from what you see today.
So the other thing I was going to ask is, have you run into that the standard, there's no standard that says it has to be a hard hat, so that in some environments your helmet can't be used? That's not a thing, is it?
No. It's required that you have a Type 1 hard hat, or it could be called a helmet, but a Type 1 ANSI certified in the U.S.
Or greater, right?
Or greater, yeah,
right.
Or greater.
Okay, so it can apply anyway. So I wanted to go back. I just wanted to clarify that before just a little bit going back to your getting this company going. We get a lot of very large corporate type companies. They've been around 100 years. We've got one coming on. They've been around 165 years. Just wild.
Wow.
But that is not the case. You have had to enter into a market. We're in the same boat. We entered into the market for doing these types of shows 5 years ago, and there's different challenges in every. And the question I quite often ask: what did you think it was going to be, and what has it been?
Well, I don't think I had a very clear picture on how difficult it would be, especially right as COVID was kicking in. The same month that I, quit my old job. But, luckily, it was kind of a kick in the pants to, there was no option. I made a decision to do this, and there was no option to fail. So we made mistakes, and there was challenges in getting the product to market. Through the whole process, but we've done it a second time with the full Brim, and it was much easier, much faster. We made less mistakes, and so you just learn. But the fact that there just wasn't an option to fail was that's what got me up every day and to persevere. And the timing was challenging with supply chain and the world and the pandemic, but it was also, looking back in hindsight, it was absolute perfect timing, as the transition hadn't really started. There were certain companies that had started it, but for the most part, 9 out of 10 people we talked to thought we were crazy, but we saw it coming, and we had some insight from industry leaders. So. The timing was great, and it's been, it's been hard, but it's been fun as well. And, we are very mission driven to save lives, and that's what gets me up every day is knowing that the more helmets we get out there, the more possibility STUDSON has to save someone's life or get them home safe at night.
Yeah, and I saw that on your website. It is very clear, and there's a lot you can take from a company's mission statement because simple and clear says a lot about it. Did you, was it things like skiing? You worked in the industry before. I would say skiing itself. I've done a little bit of snowboarding, but it's on hills is a different level of focus. I played a lot of sports, but the slopes have a different level because it really isn't. You really can't take your mind off it for a sec. That's when you start that young. That sort of develops a certain. You sort of are able to lock yourself into that mode in the business world now.
Yeah, I think I played a few team sports when I was younger, and then as I got more committed into ski racing, it's an individual sport. It's just you and yourself, hurling yourself down the mountain at, up to 75 miles an hour. And, it teaches you grit and perseverance, which, I also, learned a lot of that from my parents as well, who, are very entrepreneurial. And, so I think, a lot, the sport of ski racing definitely shaped me, shaped kind of my career, and taught me how to go after what you believe in. If you're passionate, super passionate about head protection, from my past and as well as from other people I know that have suffered head injuries and how that affects the rest of their life.
Well, you have to have a certain amount of focus to when a global pandemic rocks the world. The one thing I was actually wondering through that time, though, I'll use us as an example to set this up. all of a sudden, the one thing that came out of it is before you'd have to like set up meetings and people like wanting you to travel. And all of a sudden we realized we can work together and build trust and do all these things that need to get business going without so much of the time. I mean, meet me for a coffee downtown. It's like 4 hours for the exact same discussion,
Yeah.
Did that actually provide some opportunity to be able to not get tied up with what typically does bog down new companies in a huge way? Is just the time getting to places.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really thought of that, but you're absolutely correct that the start of the pandemic, it was wild for all of us trying to figure out if it was okay to go to the grocery store, but during that time we learned to do business differently, and yeah, I mean, I guess much more effective not spending a bunch of time on flights and drive time and just doing it all over Zoom. It created a challenge or two, not being able to have in-persons and shipping prototypes all over the world for approval, and that made for a longer process in getting to market and getting approvals, et cetera, and the whole R&D and development phase. But yeah, I mean, making up a lot of time on the other end.
Now, sort of things back to normal, you can it's kind of a hybrid of the two, right? You kind of know these new ways of doing it, and then you can put it like you're at a live event now, but we're doing it through remote. We're doing an interview remotely, so.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with lots of our consultants and our marketing agency, I mean, we do in person when we can, and it's great to be together. But it's a lot easier to do video calls and be more efficient with everyone's time.
Yeah, I know you got an event to get to. I'm going to last question. What is a common question people are asking at the show that just anybody watching you'd want to get answered? People just come up to you and ask about the helmet, or GCs ask, or even if there's a couple questions.
Well, so at the Utility Expo here, this is a slower industry or vertical to make this shift. I think 9 out of the 10 people we're talking to are still using a traditional hard hat. However, they see what's happening out there in the world, and they know that it's coming. And whether OSHA, makes any changes to their policies in the coming years, they know that lots of people are making it a requirement, a better head protection, whether it's Type 2 or Type 1 with a chin strap. Whatever their requirements are, but they know it's happening, and they're intrigued when they see the full brim. That's definitely more of a style in the electrical and utility world to have a full brim. So we're excited to be here and get to show it off.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, and like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm glad you came on because you came on my radar quite a while back. And it's just a great product line. And then offline, I'll chat with you hopefully about getting. We need something besides just pictures and toys in the background. So, and it'd be a great fit. So
Absolutely.
Ryan, thank you very much. I know you're also
Jerrod.
Advertising on our show and sponsoring us. So we really do appreciate your support. And I know this is an important event for you, and taking the time to be on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's been great.
All right. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Watch for more episodes. Check out. There's going to be lots of links to the STUDSON's product line, to their different helmets. And they're also, you're going to see them on other shows on the Crownsman show that they are advertising on. So please check them out. Thank you for watching. And we will see you on the next episode of The Crownsman Show.